Hello, Molweni, Sanu, Hujambo. I'm Tembekile Mkhototo, and this is Unwrap Africa, where we focus on the latest news, trends, and successes of the African continent. Siyaxaxa. As always, we welcome your thoughts on the program. And tonight we're asking you about this: ECOWAS declaring a state of emergency following recent coups and attempts to overthrow governments in that region. What does that say about the state of democracy in West Africa? We'll take your thoughts on voice note. The WhatsApp number to use is +27 78459 1897. Otherwise, you can find us on Facebook, where we are SABC Unwrap Africa, and on X, our handle is SABC News_TV. Let's have a look now at the main stories from the continent this week. Thousands of Congolese refugees are pouring into Burundi again, fleeing M23 rebels who've taken control of Uvira amid renewed fighting in the east of the DRC. New reception sites have now been set up to manage the influx. Nigeria and Benin have pledged to swiftly counter threats to democracy in West Africa. It's after the successful prevention of a coup attempt in Benin. Nigeria's Foreign Affairs Minister Yusuf Tugar praising the rapid response that protected Benin's democratic government. Sudan is facing a new refugee crisis as paramilitary rapid support forces continue their advance. The war in the country has already displaced nearly 12 million people, including 4.3 million who are across borders in Chad, South Sudan, and other neighboring countries. Tanzanian rapper Fidel AMAKYE has been appointed as a United Nations Environment Programme Advocate. The appointment comes ahead of the 7th UN Environment Assembly. It will be held in Nairobi, bolstering her Goodwill Ambassador role. In Ghana, towering Christmas trees in Accra have made entirely from discarded plastic bottles, are captivating residents this holiday season. They were created by environmentalist Fidel AMAKYE Owusu, who's been transforming plastic waste into public art since 2017. Well, then, Africa's oldest liberation movement, that South Africa's ANC, held its National General Council, where the party looked at the challenges as well as successes since the current leadership was elected. The gathering happened here in Gauteng this past week. The ANC has been able to survive under difficult conditions of late. One of the issues that led to the ANC losing its majority to govern the country in the 2024 election was the electricity crisis. Well, ANC NEC member and the minister responsible for the electricity portfolio, Hosien Soramohupa, has been speaking to the SABC senior reporter Samkela Maseko on the margins of that gathering.
We did identify electricity challenges together with the inefficiencies on the logistics side as a structural constraint to the South African economy. So these two areas of the South African economy have undermined the ability of the economy to grow at the desired level. And I mean, you can't have industry running when the lights are off, and as a result of that, we've seen that the capacity utilization at various industries has come down. Of course, ESCOM has performed phenomenally well. Interventions that were targeted have been able to give us the results that we expected, and in fact, in some instances, even surpassed our own expectation. So we're seeing that there's overproduction now. There's greater confidence in the South African economy. We're seeing that capacity utilization is increasing. Firms are producing more and more, and as they do that, they employ more people. And of course, we know that household consumption is 60% of the South African economy. The more you get people into jobs, they've got the disposable income, they're able to spend it in the economy. That's the results that we are seeing. It's going to take a bit of time to fully permeate, but we are seeing the green shoots as the president makes the observation. The key is that it must be sustained over a period of time. And that's why we're having a different conversation now with the smelters. We have seen now we're making commitment around getting to a price point that is attractive to them, that allows them to open the smelters, the furnaces, businesses. I'm more than confident that we are going to reach this agreement in the next 2 months or so. You'll see that us, not just with the two big smelters, Glencoe and Somanco, and many others will come into the fold. We are going to resolve this problem. I am confident that with this performance of ESCOM, then we are able to redeploy, reallocate this excess electricity into the South African economy at a price that is affordable, so that industry become competitive, we get people into jobs, and we collect more taxes. We are able to reallocate this to the poor.
In short, Minister, so you are saying that you'll be reducing the cost of electricity for those whom are in the manufacturing industry, particularly smelters and the manufacturing of steel.
Yes, so that's the intention. We're working on the modalities. We'll get to that point. Of course, there's a criteria that you must meet. We're starting there, and then we'll go to other sectors of the South African economy. I mean, we've spoken to the Mineral Council to share with them what this ambition is. And then part of the problem historically is to want to do everything at once. I'm making the point that it will not work. Let's be deliberate on which sectors of the South African economy are we prioritizing. There's a science why we are starting with the smelters. We are home to more than 70% of known chrome ore reserves in the world. So if we were to get the price point right, because we are pulverized in the market by the East, because they are offering their smelters at a price of about 62%. We can have the reserves, but if the cost of production, 45% of that is electricity, and it comes at 2/3 greater than what your competitor is able to offer, you'll never win that game. So we're entering that game. So we're going to be the price makers in the world. That's our intention going forward. And of course, lift the South African economy in the process. So I'm confident we'll get it right.
Well, there's great excitement in Morocco, the host of the host country for the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations tournament. The Continental showpiece will run from the 21st of this month, that's December, until the 18th of January at 9 venues across Morocco. Kylie Kumalo has more.
Hello there from Rabat, the Moroccan capital. So this is one of the host cities for Africa Cup of Nations. Come the 21st of December until the 18th of January. South Africa's Bafana will be right here. And in fact, one of the very first games that will be hosted right here in Rabat. And not far from here, we're right in Al Medina Stadium. It's an 18,000 capacity stadium meeting the FIFA specifications. Stakes are very high. 24 teams will be competing here, including Bafana. As you remember that in Cote d'Ivoire, they took the 3rd position. Stakes are certainly high, and as you know that Morocco is positioning itself. The infrastructure is on track. We've seen the stadiums around here and also the transportation and many other features as well. We got an opportunity to speak to some Africans about their expectations.
I think Cote d'Ivoire, the fighting spirit of the Cote d'Ivoire's team is the best, and Cote d'Ivoire will win this cup.
Morocco. Morocco.
Why Morocco?
I know Morocco is one of the most brilliant teams in the continent. I'll say even in the world. And the fact that Kenya beat Morocco when they came to Nairobi, I'll be happy for Morocco to win this time.
Okay.
Yes.
So you want them to have a bit of taste of victory?
Because yes, it's being hosted in their home country, so why not lift the cup as well? And I'm so happy because the other day they also bestowed an accolade to our president, Dr. William Ruto, for one of the great organizations as well. So I'm here rooting for Morocco.
I think it'll be a contest between Nigeria and the hosts, Morocco, but also Cote d'Ivoire could stand a chance. But my money is on Morocco as having the home advantage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And just your expectations, because I mean, it's always great when it's AFCON, especially with footballers showcasing the talent from the continent.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a chance for Africa to show that its football talent is improving and its ability to host big tournaments also ahead of the World Cup in 2030. So Morocco is really getting the spotlight this time around. So I'm happy for them in that regard, yeah.
Undoubtedly, there's a great deal of excitement here in Morocco. It's an opportunity as well to showcase the country, its beauty as well, and the tourism sector that is thriving. Authorities say they're working so hard to ensure that there's seamless movement for all the soccer fanatics who'll be flocking to Morocco. As you know, that come 2030, this North African country as well will be a co-host for the Soccer World Cup in 2030. Alongside Spain and also Portugal. Kylie Kumale, SABC News, Rabat, Morocco.
Well, let's have a look now at your responses to our question of the day. We're asking about ECOWAS declaring a state of emergency following recent coups and attempts to overthrow governments in West Africa. What does that say about the state of democracy in that region of the continent? Let's see what you have been saying. One here from Mulabaji Aluasa says, where have you been, ECOWAS? Aquila of Congi says that ECOWAS better move sharp before we wake up one morning and see welcome to the United States or coup d'Afrique. One again here from Mulabaji again says that ECOWAS, now that you're finally awake, don't forget your name. Economic Community of West African States is a promise to the people, not just letters. And one final one says, this is our time to get things right in Africa. We've been so far behind. We need to implement policies that will drive advancement to our continent. This is a worthy call. And Dr. Ashok Shada says democracy in West Africa is facing enormous pressure right now. And speaking of that, next, when we continue on Unwrap Africa, we'll get the view of a security analyst, an expert who will help us make sense of what is going on in West Africa. Stay with Unwrap Africa. And you're still watching Unwrap Africa on SABC News this Sunday evening. ECOWAS has declared a state of emergency in West Africa, but it's still not clear how this will help to foil future coup attempts. The declaration was made by ECOWAS Commission Chair Omar Toure this week, following an attempted coup in Benin and a successful toppling of the government in Guinea-Bissau recently. West Africa does have a long history of coups that have been documented throughout the years, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. Let's discuss the situation in the region with Fidel AMAKYE Owusu. He's an international relations and security analyst based in Ghana. Fidel, a very good evening to you. Welcome to Unwrap Africa on SABC News. So, will Omar Toure's words regarding the state of emergency in West Africa prompt a real response, or is this another face-saving exercise for ECOWAS?
Well, the situation is quite volatile politically. And even though this decision is a political and security decision, much of the problem has to do with so many dynamics, both geopolitical, socio-economic, and regional dynamics. In fact, the call is just to reaffirm the position of ECOWAS that it is no more going to tolerate the chain of coups that are currently underway in the region. Since 2022, the region has had multiple coups. We saw the first one in Mali, and then it went to Guinea, then came back to Mali again, where the junta tried to stage another coup to consolidate its power. Then we saw Burkina Faso, and then another one in Burkina Faso, and then we saw Niger. Currently, Guinea-Bissau has joined the league, and outside West Africa, or the ECOWAS West Africa, we've seen coups in Sudan, Gabon, Chad, and other places, both successful and unsuccessful. And ECOWAS is trying to reiterate the fact that, well, after the end of the Cold War, it decided to go democratic. It eventually adopted a protocol on good governance and democracy, and it doesn't want to go back to the 1970s and 80s, right, where coups were the order of the day.
But what does this state of emergency mean? Because ultimately there has been a lot of conversation, perhaps even confusion in some quarters about whether what we heard from the Commission chair this week was an official declaration of a state of emergency. So what actions will it prompt?
Yeah, so essentially, state of emergency are found in countries, or the countries declare, sovereign countries declare state of emergency. It's rarely seen with regional bodies, but we've seen this in the past during the Arab Spring in the GCC countries, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. We are talking about Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and Kuwait. And during these times, you saw that the GCC actually declared or apparently declared some state of emergency wherever they saw some protest, the security forces collectively, in these countries, collectively dealt with the situation because they realized that together they could survive the Arab Spring. And then if they were dealing with it individually, they would have fallen like what happened in regimes in Tunisia, Egypt, and other places. So I believe that this is a way to send a signal that if ECOWAS has been able to foil or counter the coup in Benin, it is likely to do so in other places. And you know, coups are very conspiratory. You never know it is going to happen. So it is a way to send a signal to forces or the militaries in the region that are planning, or soldiers that are planning coups, that if you do, we are not going to look on while you do it. We are going to come out to you, and it's going to be quite effective. Yeah.
Speak to us then about the level of trust among the people of the region in ECOWAS's ability to ensure that very peace, stability and security.
Yeah, so that is also another issue, talking about the population. The different countries in Africa or in West Africa experience different kind of colonialism. In fact, in West Africa, we have Anglophone, Francophone and Lusophone. So we had the Portuguese, the French, and the British are applying different kinds of colonial rule. In fact, that of the French was more of direct rule, what we call the policy of assimilation, where the French wanted you to speak like French, to behave like French and all that, and you could be in West Africa in the colonial days and still be citizen of France. So theirs was more direct. The British used indirect rule in West Africa. And so the ramifications have been different, and that is why most of the coups in West Africa seem to be in the Francophone countries. And the reason is that the population, even after independence in 1958 onwards and 60 onwards, you realize that the population was still attached to France, and France had overwhelming influence. But in recent times, the kind of there's a counter movement towards that kind of French influence. And even in pro-France countries like Côte d'Ivoire, Senegal, and other places, the French has been asked to leave in terms of military presence and other arrangement that looks like neo-colonial in nature. Yeah.
Based on that context then, is democracy as a whole under threat in West Africa, or is this a genuine moment for change that is being demanded, by the populations in these countries who are simply fed up with failed governance, failed leadership?
Yeah, so the situation is that people want to have consequential democracy and not just democracy. That democracy that lifts them from poverty, that democracy that provides good education, that democracy that provides the basic needs like water, shelter, and others. So they don't want to see democracy as an end in itself. They want to see it as a means to an end, and that end is socio-economic development. So yes, it is under threat, but it is not all the democracy that is under threat, because countries like Ghana, Senegal, where leaders are held accountable, where the people believe that when we go to the polls, we are likely to make the changes. When we vote, it will make the right impact. If we want to change government, yes, when we vote, and we don't want the incumbent, we can have a new government, like what happened in Ghana. Then the people are willing to support that kind of democracy. But where constitutions are changed, the civilian leaders seem to impose themselves, and corruption is so overwhelming and rampant, the people do not see such democracy to be consequential to their lives.
Fidel, really good to talk to you. Fidel is an international relations as well as national security expert, speaking to us about the situation in West Africa, where there have been several coups in recent months. You're watching Unwrap Africa on SABC News. Much more show for you coming up in a moment. Thanks for staying with us. The Zanzibar live cooking experience is more than just a meal. It's basically a journey through the island's rich history and cultural heritage. Well, we've been out to explore and experience it for ourselves. Nonhlanhla Mthembu was our eyes and ears on the ground.
All the way from Tanzania, Zanzibar Flavors gives Africans the experience of the live cooking, which also seeks to educate and give wealth of knowledge when it comes to Tanzanian spices and their obviously very famous rice.
One of the big components of ours at Zanzibari Flavors is doing live cooking. It's a place where we share ideas, but we share it through something that we love. We share it through educating each other, because as much as we are one people on the continent, we believe there's still space and room to go to learn other people's cultures. There's 54 nations across the region. There's many similarities, as we've said, but at the heart of it, we are one people. In Tanzania, the ungo is what we use to clean and separate the rice. As much as we've got fancy modern dishes, the ungo remains a critical part of our culture. We use it to separate the rice, because sometimes the rice has stones in it, and rice remains one of the biggest starches, most used starches that we have in Tanzania. Food plays a big role in the African tradition. This is not just to Zanzibar and just to Tanzania.
As much as we have different nations, but when it comes to food, we speak the same language, just in different dialects, if you like to say.
And that tasty note is where we'll leave it here for Unwrap Africa this week. We're back with you at 8 p.m. next Sunday. Stay with SABC News. Good night.